Yes,
One of these that each one of them is the treasure, and the writing group is the treasure chest. I believe that. I'm gonna read a story for you that I wrote. There's a much longer story, but this is a Reader's Digest version. And I'm eventually gonna finish a book today because I have all this support around me. I'm a storyteller, not a writer, and I'm learning how to write within a reading group. I want to thank David Dunlop for being here, the creator of Thank you very much, David, and Dennis Minsky, a real writer. Frank from, we always call it the lunch house with the kids, a box lunch. It's got a whole set of refreshments in the other room. As soon as we finish here, as quick as I can read, you can get in there and have refreshments on us. Thank you for coming. The fate of the fishing vessel Leland J. The 90-foot fishing vessel Little Infant left Provincetown Harbor at 5 p.m. on a routine 14-day offshore scallop fishing trip. The boat will spend 2 weeks at sea and 3 days at home in port between trips. Remember that, Jerry? The Little Infant fished steady for 5 days, 24/7. I'm off watch and sound asleep. My sleeping quarters behind the engine room make it impossible to hear anything except the engine. Rick shook my shoulder. I was exhausted and in deep sleep from fatigue. My eyes felt glued shut. Rick shook me awake and yelled directly into my ear, "Peter, Peter, wake up, the captain needs you on the bridge." I struggled to wake up, my eyes burned. For some reason, Rick wanted my attention. I heard only the constant blare of the big diesel engine, and I was confused. I looked at Rick, and it raised a hand to cup my ear so Rick could yell into it. "Peter, I'm sorry to wake you, there's a boat sinking nearby, and the captain needs you on the bridge." Right away, I thought of Gilly. He was one of the older seasoned crewmen. His bunk was up forward in the galley. I yelled into Rick's ear, "Rick, did you wake up Gilly?" He says, "All men up forward are awake." I said, "What did Gilly say when you woke him up?" Gilly said, "Screw him, let him sink." I chuckled to myself. Rick, Gilly, Tony, and I worked the same watch. It had been a hard trip. We're in a huge storm after midnight, and everyone was exhausted. The captain had given the all hands on deck. Ricky did his best to be sure everyone was awake. "Be careful while you're on deck," said Rick. "Thanks, Rick. I'll be careful. I'll see you topside." The boat rocked and rolled violently. It's difficult to hold on, and you can't let go. One hand to steady yourself, and the other hand to struggle into foul weather clothes and boots. Rick stood by for a few minutes, and he approached to yell into my ear, "Don't hurry. Last I heard, the sinking boat was 9 miles away, but it may be closer now." "Okay, Rick, I'll be careful, thanks." I got to the top of the engine room ladder and spied a small emergency exit door at the rear of the captain's quarters. I paused because I knew it was off limits, but this was an emergency. And if I cut through there, I wouldn't have to face the foul weather outside on deck. With a good stretch from the top of the engine room ladder, I made it to the small emergency door and struggled my way to get it open. The small door led into the captain's quarters. From the captain's quarters, I entered the pilot house. Captain Adams was busy and startled to see me come out of his private quarters. "Well, I'll be damned, where the hell did you come from, Pedro? And what were you doing in there, Captain?" "I wasn't in your quarters, Captain, I just passed through." I got to the top of the engine room ladder, and the small emergency exit door at the rear of your cabin caught my eye. Grace, Pedro, this door is so small, they didn't think a fat mouse could fit through there. "I need you up there with me." Ricky woke me to tell me you wanted me on the bridge. "What's going on, Captain?" "Well, Pedro, the mate was on watch and got a mayday. The vessel was taken on water. I guess the pumps all stopped working. I've been in touch with the Coast Guard, and they keep asking me the same questions over and over. Tell Captain Adams, this ain't a very good night to be screwed up out here, it's rough as hell. The ship-to-shore radio interrupted our conversation. Calling the fishing vessel Little Infant, calling the fishing vessel Little Infant. This is United States Coast Guard, this is United States Coast Guard, come in please. Captain Adams didn't answer the radio. He went on talking and filled me in on what was going on. Pedro, the first Mayday came in when the boat was 9 miles away. She's closing now. When it comes up on the crest of the waves, I pick her up on the radar, but lose her in the trough. Our mate went forward to organize our gang. I want you to keep an eye on that radar. We have to keep track of what's going on. Okay, Captain, I'll do my best. From high up on the pilot house, I could see our men, all hands on deck. Some men had climbed up on top of the whaleback at the high point of the bow. Billy and another crewman stood at the ready, dressed in their survival suits. Coils, rope, life jackets, and searchlights were on deck at the ready. Waves constantly crashed over our boat. The wind howled through the rigging, and waves washed over the rail. Pedro, keep an eye on that radar, and let me know when you spot that boat. I see it, George. It's 3 miles on radar. Forward port. God forbid if they're in the water. The ship-to-shore radio came to life. This is the United States Coast Guard. This is the United States Coast Guard calling the fishing vessel Little Infant. Captain Adams reached for the radio microphone. This is Infant. Go ahead, Coast Guard. The Coast Guard responded. Fishing vessel Little Infant. This is the United States Coast Guard. What's the name of the vessel in distress? What is the name? Captain George backed into the radio microphone. The name of the vessel is the Leyland J. I've already told you that 10 times. How many more times you gonna ask? Pedro, I've been saying the same things over and over with those guys. The hell's the matter with them? Can't they hear? Fishing vessel Little Infant. Fishing vessel Little Infant. Again, the captain cut him off. I know who you are. What's the matter with you guys? Stop saying everything over and over. I need help out here. Send me a chopper. Give me some lights, some pumps, or something. I spoke up. Sorry to interrupt you, Captain. That's okay, Pedro. I'm not getting anywhere with those guys. You got something there? Yes, Captain Adams. It's a western rig. I have a good fix. She's close, but she's too close. Pedro, we got 30-foot cresting seas running. Picking up these men in this weather isn't going to be easy. The last radio transmission I got from the boat's captain said there are 6 men, and they were going to be in the water. I don't know if they're going to be in a raft or if they're going to be swimming. Coast Guard made another request. Fishing vessel Little Infant, fishing vessel Little Infant. What's the color of your vessel? Captain Adams answered the radio one last time. What difference does that make? You're too busy to talk now. Pedro, where's that boat now? Never mind, I got eyes on it. The 2 of us watched as the sinking vessel came up on the crest of the waves. The lights were on, but the entire stern was underwater. Pedro, be careful. Go up forward, tell the men, all eyes looking to spot anything at all in the water, and come back here. I made my way across the deck and over the big scallop pile. My pal Gilly and crewman Larry were in their survival suits. Gilly, hope you don't have to go into these rough seas tonight. Gilly laughed and said, hey man, I hope I don't have to go too, but if my ass was out there, I would hope someone was coming after me. In spite of the foul weather conditions, our crew was in good spirits. They were ready for anything to happen. I mate and 2 other crewmen who were up on top of the whaleback, forward on the bow. They held tight to the rigging against 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and braced against waves as they broke over them. I made my way back to the power house. Pedro, what's going up there with the crew? I stayed ready, George. All eyes were on the water. They saw a glimpse of green lights. Our men shouted, look out there! I see green lights, keep watching. The unanswered radio crackled over and over with endless questions. What are the sea conditions? What are the wind conditions? Who owns the vessel in distress? What color is the vessel? Captain Adams and I knew all hope of getting any help from the Coast Guard was now lost. I took my place in the wheelhouse by the radar. We could see the other boat. I was deep in thought when Captain Adams spoke up with a question. Pedro, have you ever seen anything like that before, my boy? No, sir, was all I could say. Together for a long moment, we stood silent and watched the unfathomable sight before our eyes. The sight of the vessel put me spellbound. God help them if the wind and drink went through my mind. She was a ghost ship, out at sea, on her own. A big offshore fishing dragger, alone and adrift. Her radar turned for an unwatched screen. She lives for a moment. Soon the vessel's founder will claim the ship. The entire bounty will return to the depths of the sea. The vessel got close off our port beam. It was like a bad dream turned into a nightmare. I watched as if nothing else mattered and asked myself what the hell I was doing out there. I prayed for those men and I prayed for us. Pedro, I'm gonna give us some power in order to get that boat past our stern. I don't wanna get tangled up with her. Go up forward again to find out what's going on up there. Tell everyone to be careful. I don't wanna lose any of our boys. I made my way forward. The men talked about two green lights, one steady and the other waved side to side. The raft was off our bow. Our vessel jogged steadily into the wind. The wind also carried the raft toward us and the surf down the seas. Each wave brought it closer and closer to our boat. The raft came too fast and too close. The bow of the little infant rode up on the crest of the waves. The men in the raft were in danger of going under our bow. One of our crewmen looked toward the wheelhouse. He waved his arms and he hollered, "Back it down, George, back it down, hard." Other crewmen yelled over the foul weather to get the captain's attention. The raft had gotten too close. "Back it down, George, back it down hard, now." I thought Captain Adams couldn't see or hear because of the inclement weather. The wind whistled through the rigging. I left the bow to make my way to the pilot house. Suddenly the boat lurched to a halt. It almost knocked me down. Black smoke bellowed out the big exhaust stack. Our boat was in full reverse. I got to the foot of the steps that led up to the pilot house. The door on the starboard side of the pilot house opened and Captain George Adams stepped outside to address his crewmen. He was a tough man with a strong body, powerful arms, and big hands. His life was spent at sea, running ships and commanded men. He adjusted his glasses and he announced to the crew, "There'll be no hollering on this vessel." Get those men aboard on the starboard side and put them down. Or don't drop them there or they're a goner. Our skipper disappeared and went back inside of the wheelhouse, and I couldn't believe my eyes. For just a moment, outside in the horrific weather, was our mighty captain. He stood spread stance and rolled the pitch and roll of the little infant. I had seen him pinch the corners of those glasses and adjust them to his face at other moments of distress. It took him only a brief moment to size up a situation at hand. The little infant maneuvered perfectly to place the raft alongside our starboard bow. Our crew would rescue the men from their raft, but the raft was on a wild ride. We rode up on each wave and reached heights over our gallows, and they quickly dropped back down into the trough of the sea out of reach. Our mate made a perfect throw of a long line to the raft. The men in the raft caught the line on the first try. Our gang yelled and cheered at this success. The raft still rode the waves, but it was tethered to the little infant. Our crew gave shouts of joy. "Pull him in, let's get him." Everyone wanted to help. Our crewmen pulled on the line and could see frightened faces in the raft. Each wave pushed the raft high over our heads, but it dropped quickly down out of reach. My mate yelled to the men in the raft, "Wait till the raft rides up. We'll grab you on the way back down." Every man wanted to be the first out of that raft. One man's outstretched arms waited to be grabbed. Our crew grabbed his hands and arms, and the raft dropped out from under him. A good hard yank, and the first man was over the rail and flopped on the deck of the little infant. Each grab brought another man onto our deck. One of the men was very big. Our crew was pumped up with adrenaline. "Hey, we got a big one! We got a big one! Get him!" Over the rail came the man like a huge fish. They flopped on the deck in the same fashion as the others. Young George Adams, Gio to us, was our captain's son. He was our ship's cook. He quickly took care to get each man down into the galley. When the last man was aboard our vessel, our mate asked him if he wanted the raft. The raft was pulled aboard, deflated, stuffed up in the whale-back storage area of the bow of our boat. The crew of the fishing vessel Leland J was now safe and sound. I returned to the pilot house to report to our captain. That went well, Pedro. How were those men? I said, George, they're shaken up, but they're lucky to be alive, thanks to you. The captain pointed off our starboard stern. Take a look at that, Pedro. Bet you've never seen anything like that before. I'm glad we didn't get tangled up with that. The Leland J had capsized. It was bottoms up as it floated away from us. Pedro, this is a story you can tell your grandchildren someday.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you.